Is it me, or is it starting to feel like there's a bit of a positive vibe, good feel factor around the club right now? I think that November has been a very impressive month, and we've bounced back in amazing fashion after suffering that 2-0 defeat against Brentford at home. And to be fair with you, after that defeat, I don't think much of the fan base was feeling positive about our chances during November. But since that defeat, my friends, we progressed to the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup. We had some unforgettable games against Spurs and that PL Classic against Man City. And I guess our final challenge is to go through this month unbeaten. Can we get that result against Newcastle at St. James Park away from home, my friends? Let's hope so, because tomorrow could be the perfect time to play against Newcastle, as they're set to enter this game with around 11 players not being available for the lineup. Now, let's not get too carried away or too gassed, because it's not like all their big name players are out right now. Isak is returning. He'll be playing against us. They still have a very strong midfield, ball-winning midfielder, Longstaff, Willock, and all these guys back in the team. And of course, we'll see the return of Livramento, but no Lewis Hall, of course, because I think they signed him on loan first before they sealed a permanent move afterwards. So listen, this Newcastle team have shown that they are no pushovers themselves. They've lost their last 2 games recently against Dortmund in the Champions League and a 2-0 defeat to Bournemouth. And to be fair, they were feeling the effects of fatigue, which is normal. But after this international period, they're going to want to bounce back in fashion now. And I think that we have to be very careful. And that's because with Newcastle, they are a very combative team. They're a strong team. They're pretty fearless in that sense. And they're very dangerous in the counter-attack. But 9 points off a Champions League spot. Now, we're getting closer to the halfway point in the season. After tomorrow's game, it would have been 13 games played since the season started. And, we need to climb up the table. We have to show that mentality, the hunger, and most importantly, the maturity. And that is something I'll be discussing in Pochettino's very insightful press conference this afternoon. If you feel like we can get a result and win and beat Newcastle tomorrow, hit that like button. If not, don't even think of touching that button yet. My friends, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Before we get into things, today's video was brought to you by Parry Match UK. Quick question, everyone, but how would you like to net yourself £30 in football free bets? That's right. Our friends over at Parry Match UK are offering their new customers £30 in football free bets when you place your first £10 with them on any football market. To claim this offer, you must simply create a Parry Match account and opt into the promotion. Then place a £10 bet on any football market of odds of even or above within 7 days of opening your new account. Full terms and conditions apply, with all the links you need provided below in the description. So thank you to Parry Match UK for sponsoring today's video. So right now, let's start with the team news. And as you guys are seeing on screen, it's actually very positive to see this list getting smaller and smaller after every single week. Now, of course, massive shame goes to Trevor Chalobah. The injuries keep piling up, and it seems like any move to the Bundesliga might not be happening anymore, which is a massive shame. At the same time, we are seeing Wesley Fofana now is starting to train on the field again. He won't be back until after the new year, but it's another positive sign of his progression. And most importantly, Romeo Lavia and NKUNKU, are we going to see them play tomorrow? Most likely not. And now let's discuss this press conference. Now, I'm going to focus on the key points. We start with Cole Palmer. Now, since signing for us, he's been one of our most informed key players in the team right now. And an interesting question posed to Pochettino was this: how do you keep Cole Palmer grounded, but also encourage him to improve his level? And I think that's a very, very fair point to make. As Poch said, it's human nature to find that comfort zone, right, when you're doing well and you're on form. But it's his responsibility as the manager to keep pushing Palmer day in, day out. And to be honest, I like when managers give us these simple insights like this, because I think these small details can get forgotten at times. Managers, they do more than just coaching the tactics. You're literally galvanizing a whole team, and you have to keep the mentals up here, right? As he says, listen, maybe signing for us might be a lot easier playing in our team compared to playing for Man City, where they're winning Champions Leagues, league titles, etc., etc. He knows what the level is, and he still has a lot of work to get to the highest heights. But it's positive to hear that the manager feels like Parma has that quality in his game to become one of those players. Moving on, let's discuss NKUNKU. Naturally, fingers crossed, we're all kind of hoping we see him play tomorrow. Is that going to happen? Probably most likely not. And Pochettino kept things very real, as he's saying, listen, it's not easy to just rush him back straight away. It's a new league, different intensity levels. He's going to need time, and he needs that settling in period as well. So I think that kind of alludes to the fact that NKUNKU will get minutes off the bench first before he starts games in the future, right? But, you know, to move on, it's good that NKUNKU's recovery is going very well, but I think right now that is the main focus now in his rehab at this point in time, getting his stamina levels up and getting him ready to start playing in the Premier League. You know, he has been out for up to 4 months, as Pochettino said, and at the same time, there's a lot of players in form right now, so he needs to also rise to that same level that's been set by his teammates, with that, which I think is more than fair. It's a team game. So that is the NKUNKU quotes out of the way. And let's discuss the interesting part of the press conference. And I guess we've all been thinking this, right? What is our issue against teams that aren't as good as us? We can compete against the big boys. We've shown that this season. Tactically, physically, we are there. But I think today Pochettino brought up a great point about the team's maturity levels and how they feel the pressure when they're playing against the smaller teams, where the expectations from us and from everyone is that, listen, we should be winning these games because we are better than these teams. Poch feels like our main concern is the lack of maturity, in the sense that, do we have the right mentality when it comes to taking advantage of moments in games when things aren't necessarily working in our favor? You know, as he's saying, you know, now that we won't have any more international breaks, at least until March, it's a great opportunity for this team to continue to work together, spend more time. There's great signs of the togetherness in the team because a lot of these guys spend time on the pitch and off the field as well too. The key thing is to boost that maturity levels, because we need to understand how to not get frustrated when things aren't working our way in game, because I think we've all seen this a lot too. We tend to force moments in game when the game is going against us, and that speaks to the lack of maturity, which is natural because we've invested in so many young players, and I think because we get gassed by the price tags and, you know, like the hype and potential of these guys, that we forget that they aren't those players right now. They're still learning, and a lot of that is how do you control your nerves and how do you boost your mental application in game. That is something that can only come with more time. And I think as a fan base, we can be maybe, you know, including myself, we can be a lot more understanding on the state of this team right now. Now, as Poch goes on to say, you know, the expectations to beat the smaller teams, maybe that creates nerves in the players in the squad, and that can hurt our confidence. And, you know, we're getting these insights because Poch revealed that he was having conversations with the squad where the whole squad came together to discuss what is going wrong against the smaller clubs, because you can't be, you're not a bad team if you're out competing your Liverpools and your Tottenhams and then going toe to toe against Man City. You can't fluke that. And as Poch revealed, they're holding discussions around things like what's going good, what's going bad, how do we feel when we score, how do we feel when we don't score, and could the expectations from not only the players but us, the fan base, and just the whole media and talk, can that play an effect on these guys' confidence in game when the game is going against them? And I can agree with those sentiments, because if a player doesn't perform well, they're going to be instantly criticized. And that's going to be very publicly known. You can't hide away from that. We're too connected in the internet age right now for any player to just completely ostracize himself from that stuff. It's not going to happen anymore. And if you're 19 or 20 or 21 or 22 years old, you know, is that going to play a part in terms of your confidence in game? I think that is. I think that definitely will. And I think the best example of this was the new article that came out today from Matt Law, focused around Nicolas Jackson. I thought it was quite insightful. It tells us more about Nicolas Jackson. You know, of course, to give you guys a bit of a context around the reports. Of course, right now, Nico and his partner have welcomed their new baby into the world, and Nico spoke about life back in Senegal. You know, he said he didn't get his first football boots until he was 16 years old, and they were second-hand boots that his mum had to get. At 16, that's 6 years ago. He said growing up, Cristiano Ronaldo was his idol, and that's why he celebrated like Ronaldo when he got the first hat-trick of his career against Spurs. And listen, I'm going to hold my hands up. I was very critical of Nicolas Jackson in that game. And listen, I'm not going to be right all the time, and I can openly embrace when I'm wrong, yeah? But as he goes on to say, he got his first break at 17 from ex-West Brom striker NKUNKU, who spotted him, took him to the Casa Sport Academy, and he got access to have trials with Benfica, later Villarreal, and then they signed him up. And listen, to think that from 17 to 22 years old, within 5 years, he's gone from being part of no footballing academy to now playing for Chelsea FC. Like, this guy has talent. This guy has something special in his game. But we have to remember that he needs that time to grow. He is not the finished article. Yes, he has some mistakes around in his movement at times. He literally got to where he got to in his career based on natural talent. He wasn't part of any academy structures. Like, he is still learning these details of the game. And I think we can have that patience for him. You know, to have 7 goals in 14 games so far, and you're not even the finished article. Come on, like, that says a lot about this guy's game. And the reason why I mentioned this point is that Nico revealed that against Brentford when we lost that game, you know, he was getting criticism from the fans, and one fan in particular shouted out to him, you know, wake up from the stands. And Jackson said, listen, I didn't react the best way, you know, I've reacted towards that. I'm not used to stuff like that. At Villarreal, you know, the expectation to pressure is not the same. You're kind of far removed from things like that. But Nicolas Jackson reflected on that incident, and he was like, okay, you know what? It comes from a place of love, I hope. It comes from a place of like, okay, I want you to do better. And so be able to reflect and understand that, I think, speaks volumes about his character. And I hope that Nicolas goes on to have a great season, because this is a very ambitious player that has tons of raw potential and ability. And I think, you know, it's very easy for all of us to just really overly criticize these young guys as if they're 30 years old or 29 years old. No. And listen, as Pochettino said, you know, we can compete tactically, physically. The final thing we need is maturity. And I think as a fan base, we can probably help these young guys and support them a bit and not like let them get in their heads. So that is all the press interview stuff out of the way. Share your thoughts and opinions. Let's move on to the predicted lineup, and I'm going to do things differently because this is the lineup that I want to see, right? So, okay, it might be controversial, but here it goes. I've got Sterling, Nico, and Mudryk. I have Cole Palmer, Conor Gallagher, and Enzo in midfield, and in defence I've gone for Colwell, Badiashile, Silva, Reece James, and Robert Sanchez in goal. Now, my thinking is, against a physical Newcastle, we need to be strong from set pieces. So I want to have 4 strong players in my defence to help with those things, you know, to win the first balls, to win those headers. And I want Conor Gallagher in my midfield because he is our midfield this season. It's the fact statistically, not only the most assists, he wins the most duels, you know, he wins the most challenges. He's our most combative midfield player. He's not bouncing off players like what Caicedo does, and he's not giving away silly yellow cards. On top of that too, he's got great tempo to his game. He helps us play forward. He links the midfield to the attack, and he gives us that ability to press from the front as well as great protection in front of our defense. You know, I keep saying this guy is our Vidal, and I think that if we can start to kind of see him as that type of player, these criticisms like, oh, you know, his lack of creativity and all that nonsense, it just will kind of end and die. And I just think at the moment, he is our best midfield player. He can't be out the team. But I think against Newcastle, I need Enzo there for his creativity, the balls over the top, you know, just the quality in midfield. And I need Gallagher alongside Enzo to be that steel, to be that general and that enforcer. And I've gone for this because I need to see more attacking players against Newcastle. And I think with Cole Palmer, someone that can float in between the lines and the holes to link up with Nicolas Jackson, to link up with the attack, and having pace out wide too, and Sterling, and hopefully a Mudryk now that is starting to learn a bit more, get a bit better. Another player showing promise, another player that is still learning the fundamentals, you know, at this young age too. They can bring us something more dynamic in the transitions. And of course, you continue with Nicolas Jackson up front. And I think if you have a Palmer playing off of him, where these guys are showing a great understanding together, you've got an informed Raheem Sterling and a hungry Mykhailo Mudryk who is going to feel annoyed that, you know, Ukraine didn't go through and qualify, and after his penalty was denied as well. I think on balance, this is a team that has the strength, that has that combative nature, and hopefully more quality in attack, because against Newcastle, I think we have to win this game. If we draw the game or lose, that could be the end of securing anything Champions League for this season. So they're my thoughts and opinions. Share yours below if you agree with me. If not, share your lineup. And on that note, my friends, and for my final prediction, I am going for a 2-0 win. I'm going to riskily go for a clean sheet against Newcastle. I think that we have enough to win that midfield battle. I think that we have the defensive quality to deal with their like counter-attacking threats and their aerial threats, and I think this team has the offensive quality too to cause something. And I'm really feeling like, with the positive vibes in nature, we can take this form to St James's Park and get that result there, because not many people are expecting us to beat Newcastle if you look at the media. So my friends, that is my preview out the way.